welcome to the Lounge of Travefy Academy, where we get to hear from travel industry voices and experts to learn more about their story and also what they see on the horizon for travel professionals. And I'm Stephanie Grice, and our guest today is Josh Rome, who is founder and CEO of Runway Health. So, welcome to the Lounge, Josh. We're so excited to have you here today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Stephanie.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm excited to chat more and learn more about your background. But one thing that's really cool is, you've been in the industry for a little bit. So can you tell us how you found yourself in the travel industry?
Yeah, absolutely. So I have a bit of a winding story, but it all started with my career in the tech world. So I spent about 8 years at Adobe Systems helping to launch a new product with them called the Digital Publishing Suite. In 2013, I left Adobe to join a startup in the pharmaceutical industry that my brother and father had co-founded just a couple months prior. That was a company called Patagonia Pharmaceuticals, a company that was developing new treatments for rare skin diseases. So a bit of a 180 from tech, but still working on business development, strategy, and fundraising. So similar topics of the like. And that was a company that was developing new treatments for rare skin diseases. So we went from concept and ideation through formulation and development, ran preclinical studies, ultimately ran a successful phase 2A proof of concept study in our patient population, and knew that we would need a partner to bring that program along. In our search efforts to find a partner, we ended up divesting our assets to a small public dermatology company called Timber Pharmaceuticals in 2019. So that was a really exciting close of that chapter of my career. Very fun experience working alongside my brother and father, but also opened up this idea and opportunity for me to try to better align my career with my passions. So I've been an avid traveler my entire life. I've been to over 60 countries. I went on semester at sea for my study abroad program. I climbed mountains like Kilimanjaro and Tukal. Travel has really just always been this defining characteristic of my personality. So with that, in 2019, I decided to start a daily travel-based newsletter called City Speak. I grew that to a few thousand subscribers, and then I ultimately leveraged that user base into opening up my own boutique travel agency. I affiliated with Pro Travel and started selling travel. It was really very exciting from a content perspective, getting to interact with hotel owners from around the world, tour operators, like-minded agents and advisors. But through that experience, I identified this gap in the industry. And that was really when getting asked that question, when booking that honeymoon in Bali, or the family going on an African safari, or even a father and son climbing Machu Picchu, I'd always get asked this question related to what types of medications do I need, or how do I get my malaria pills, or what types of health concerns should I be aware about? And all I could really do at the time was suggest that they, quote unquote, talk to their doctor or visit a travel clinic. At 36 years old, I don't actually have my own primary care physician. 35% of millennials don't. And travel clinics are notoriously costly. They're highly fragmented and overall just a poor consumer experience. So with that, I thought there was a better solution for both travelers and travel suppliers. And that's really when Runway was born.
That's awesome. So you started too in 2019. So right
I
before.
did, a challenging time.
Yeah.
Yes.
That is crazy. And also, but the craziest thing though, is you started travel in 2019, but then also with health stuff, I mean, with COVID, did that make it even more challenging for travel advisors just following along? Like how did you personally follow along with the ever changing things that still is happening? But you have to already deal with the typical stuff that you would have to recommend, but now you have COVID.
Certainly, yeah. I was challenged like many other agents and advisors out in the world. I started my career formally in travel alongside Pro Travel towards the end of 2019. So I did have a few wonderful months from a content perspective, started building my book of business before I always say the world was turned upside down, and I encountered a new challenge in unraveling a lot of the planning. I think there was this period of time as we were all likely quarantining, in early 2020, where we didn't know really what was next. My business, from a travel advisor perspective, was completely put on halt for a number of months. And it really wasn't until probably the fall of 2020 did I start really trying to re-engage and kickstart that business again. I think that at that point, there were some tools available regarding how to manage COVID entry and exit requirements. But I think from an industry perspective, most of the attention for us here in the US was on domestic travel. So how can we best foster domestic travel through 2020, even most parts of 21. And now, of course, in 22, we're seeing the world open up, which is very exciting. And, really having the opportunity to really engage and travel to a variety of places again.
Yeah, that's awesome. And how does Runway Health work? Like, how does a travel advisor work with you?
Yeah, so Runway Health, two different ways it works. So from a consumer perspective or from a traveler perspective, it's super, super simple. You come to runwayhealth.com and you can either initiate a consultation with a physician to just have any of your travel health questions answered, or you might know what medications you need, so you can build out your treatment plan yourself. So if I'm traveling to South Africa, I know I'm probably already going to need something like malaria medication, and maybe I want an antibiotic for traveler's diarrhea just in case. So you can build out your treatment plan and then initiate that consultation with a physician. The consultation is basically just a few questions asking about your travels and your health history that then gets sent to the physician for review offline. It opens up a chat dialogue within your dashboard. Should the physician have any questions about any of the details you provided them, they can ask you questions, or you can ask the physician questions. But if they determine that you're a candidate for medication and that has been requested, they prescribe it to you. It gets filled by our partner pharmacy and delivered to your door in just a few days. But what is really cool about Runways, one of the most exciting components, is that you maintain access to that physician for chat-based care before, during, and after your travels, should you have any questions about your symptoms or treatment plan or any additional travel health questions that might come up.
That's really cool. That's awesome. And how do you
Yeah.
work with those physicians? Like, is it just like a virtual thing, or so like if a traveler wants to use their own physician, can they go through them, or how does that work?
Yeah, so I mean, we're targeting primarily those individuals that either don't have their own PCP, their primary care physician. Maybe they are not able to make an appointment with their primary care physician, which is becoming increasingly challenging in today's society, or they just don't have the time or need to go to the travel clinic. So if you do have your own access to a physician, at the ready, I think that physician might be able to support you. We're really looking for travelers that are looking for a more convenient and affordable solution. So Runway costs just $30 flat fee for that consultation, and then our medication prices range from $20 to $125 depending on what you need. And then I will, just to come back to your question before, how we're working with travel advisors, travel agents. So we, really like to feel like we have been built by the industry and for the travel industry. So we understand the importance and the significance of travel agents in navigating the challenges of both booking, managing, and supporting travelers in this world. So we very much want to put them on a pedestal. We have developed a partner program for them. So we're providing them with free tools such as travel health guides that are much more easier to understand and digestible compared to what you have to typically do as a travel agent, which is search Google. You end up on the CDC, cross-checking it with travel.state.gov, and then Googling and reading amongst a bunch of blogs. We've aggregated a lot of that information into travel health guides, provide that to agents and advisors as well as travelers for free on our website. And then in addition to that, we do have a commissioned partner program where we'll create a simple custom URL for you. We'll provide you with some one-pagers. You can embed that URL into your various forms of documentation, whether that be your itinerary building software. Some people are putting it in their signatures. Others are using it just as more of a direct referral engine. And then when you're helping to drive traffic to Runway to better support your travelers, we'll be able to incentivize you with a commission for those referrals.
That's awesome. I know
Yeah.
everyone listening now are like, that's what I'm talking about. Like always, it's what's really cool is the duty of care. I mean, that's the one thing that we've really seen from the pandemic is just, insurance. And this is another one, just again, that duty of care of getting that next level. So agents that you work with, so a lot of any new advisors or advisors who want to put this into their conversations with their clients and their workflow, how do you see other agents introduce this to the conversation of, hey, before you go, let's just double check that you have everything and we can help you do that?
Yeah, I think what we're finding is really a variety of different ways that agents are integrating us into their workflow. And we're trying to be flexible and accommodating to what fits their customer journey best. So again, that is where we have some agents that almost have integrated their custom URL as a low lift into that itinerary building software, so that right now when they print out that itinerary or send that digital itinerary to one of their guests, it's always going to have some component of like visa requirements. And then alongside that, it has healthcare solutions where it references Runway. What's interesting, and part of the reason why I created Runway, was because, again, as that advisor, you are in many cases the first to know who might be a candidate for medication, whether you're, again, booking that safari or you just booked a cruise and you know your client is susceptible to motion sickness because of a cruise that they were on last time when they were giving you feedback. So you never, while you might know that they might be a candidate for medication, you never want to play doctor as an agent or an advisor. So that's why Runway is really looking to be this support system where you can just hand your client off to Runway, knowing that we will connect them with that US-based physician to actually get medical advice from a physician and not from a travel agent, which you don't want. So it really varies in how various agents are integrating us into their offerings. In many cases, it is it is a more formal. I think you would be a great candidate for Runway. You should check them out. In other cases, it's just a reference at the bottom of the itinerary.
Yeah, that's true too, because it's probably really easy to play doctor, if you will, especially like for a cruise. You're like, oh, you have like, I think like they make like wristbands, that can help
Mm-hmm.
with, but that really could not work for them, and then they're really mad, like, why'd you tell me this?
Sure.
So that's really important, and putting that and implementing that into
Mm-hmm.
the planning stages and all of that good stuff. But one
Definitely.
other thing that I wanted to chat about is when you built Runway, so how is it going so far? Like, how big is your team? Like, how have you been building your brand?
Yeah. So Runway was formally incorporated in late April of 2021. We partnered with an investment group called Pareto Holdings really from day one. They gave us some seed capital to allow us to start building the product, building the team, because this is a bigger endeavor than I could just do on my own. With that, we spent the better part of the year building our platform. We now have a team of 7 individuals. Two others, in addition to myself, actually come from the travel industry as well. One, they both are former and current agents and advisors. And then we have a team of engineers alongside a VP of engineering who also actually formerly came from the travel space alongside working in healthcare. So we built our team of 7. We formally launched, before we formally launched, we soft launched for industry insiders, really just made sure that we could test and iterate the platform, shared it with, again, tour operators, agents, and advisors, ensuring that the tool that we were building was relevant to their businesses. Spent a few months making some tweaks, adding things like these travel health guides that we thought that we found through our research would be very helpful for them, and then formally launched to the public the end of May this year. Since then, we've been picking up some great press. We've been supporting travelers on a daily basis that are going to everywhere from Peru to Tanzania to Indonesia and others. It's always exciting when we see a new traveler coming through, and I'm still trying as best I can to reach out to each traveler personally, just thank them for their support in Runway and find out from them, how their experience has been, so we can continue to refine and develop the best solution possible.
Yeah, that's really cool. And I think you had mentioned before we were chatting that
Mhm.
everyone's remote, right? So everyone's
That's
just
correct.
working remotely. Yeah. So how is that? Because I know that's a lot of advisors have been working that way. Because just with the pandemic, since 2020, there's been a lot of people entering the industry, which is so cool. And the
Mhm.
majority of them are working from home, starting their own business or adding more ICs on. So how's that? Do you have any like tips for how advisors can stay connected with their colleagues, working virtually?
Yeah, we are definitely a global team. So we have so I'm based here in Miami, Florida. I recently relocated from the New York area. 2 of our individuals helping to lead community efforts are based in Boston and California. And then our engineering team is dispersed between Canada, Peru, Guatemala, and Mexico. And Colombia, I'm sorry, not Mexico. So very much a worldwide team, but it is still important for us to kind of maintain the sense of cohesiveness as we're building this company together. So what I find is really important, for us is, making sure that no one is feeling siloed and that they don't have the support system. So really ensuring that we engage in, regular meetings, both amongst the individual teams of partnerships and engineering, and then as well as, a broader team meeting, so that engineering always knows what partnerships is working on, and partnerships always knows what engineering is working on, so that we can really try to work in tandem. It's been, frankly, a challenge that has a lot of potential and opportunity. And I think from an employee to employee perspective, it gives that flexibility that is desired in this day and age. But certainly new challenges to navigate, as I want to ensure that we're all still feeling like we're building a real company together, and we're not just all working individually on our own projects.
Yeah, it's super interesting because I think that's especially just the travel industry always kind of had that component. Well, I mean, before back, with the brick and mortar, but now there's so much more working from home, and we're just going to keep seeing that, and new people entering the industry working from home. So yeah, it's really lots of challenges, but the good thing is we're all pretty used to now like virtual, and we can connect
Mm-hmm.
really easily, which is really awesome. But one other thing that I want to mention, because by the time this episode's out, you will be at ASTA, and so
I will.
so anyone listening who's going to be there, how's that going, or like how are you getting your foot in the door into the industry?
Yeah, so I will be attending ASTA actually as one of their finalists for their 2022 Entrepreneur of the Year award. So super exciting to be a finalist there. I'll be pitching on the general session stage on Friday. I'm just excited to be able to network with other agents and advisors, again, tour operators. I had the benefit of attending LE Miami a couple months ago, which was my first in-person conference since launching Runway. And I find as beneficial and as exciting as it is to engage as you and I are today over Zoom calls and Google Meets, there's really still nothing like that in-person connection, and it really allows me to, I think, convey Runway in a better way. And I also just appreciate always learning from these agents, what we can do better, what we can build for them, and that's what I'm really just excited about, is to have as many conversations as possible, share Runway as broadly as possible, and kind of take it all in. It'll be my first time at ASTA, so very exciting.
Yeah, that's so cool. And congratulations again for being a finalist.
Thank
That's
you.
really awesome. And where can advisors get information on Runway?
Yeah, so at runwayhealth.com, there is a tag for partners at the top of our header. There's a little submission form there. If you have any interest in becoming a partner, you can fill out a short form, and we'll engage in a conversation. We'll provide you with all the tools you need to start referring your clients to Runway. But yeah, we're excited to bring on additional partners.
That's awesome. I think it's really cool because it just levels up again your duty of care, and dealing with. And I what I like is if you're an advisor, it's probably pretty nice knowing that you can hand off your client to actual professionals, which is really nice. So really
Yeah, I
cool.
think what I found as an advisor, it's like, for your clients, whether you actually have or you certainly want to have, is an answer to everything. So the best itinerary for them, you make restaurant recommendations for them, you make activity recommendations for them, you handle their hotels, you handle their airfare. But this is the only thing that when you get asked, what do I do about my malaria medication for the safari, or I'm susceptible to altitude sickness, like what do I do when I go to Cusco? You don't have a good answer. And I feel like this is the final foray into really hopefully having an answer for everything, knowing that we as Runway can take this off of an advisor's plate, and they've got a support system in Runway, really allowing them to provide an all-encompassing solution for their clients.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's really cool. And yeah, and I'll put the link too in the description of this podcast so everyone can go
Awesome.
check that out. But okay, before you go though, I didn't tell you this, but we do rapid fire questions.
Oh, okay. I love it.
So, okay, they're all travel related. So this will be really interesting. You said you've been to 60 countries?
Yeah, just over
N-
60. Yep.
Nice. Okay, so this could get really fun. Okay, so there's I think six questions. Okay, here we
Okay.
go. Okay, so the first one, pretty easy. Hopefully it's easy. Is what is your favorite travel movie?
Wow. My favorite travel movie. Um, that's harder than I would have thought. Favorite travel
I know I
movie.
do stun people on this sometimes.
Wow, I gotta think back for a moment. Um, well, this is an interesting one. This is not a travel movie. I probably shouldn't even mention it. And I'll tell you something. This is all right. I'll tell you what actually, I'll be
Yes.
honest. What
Now I need
actually
to
came
know.
into my head first, and I have no idea where it came from, but Captain Ron came into my head. Do you know Captain Ron?
No, I don't know that.
Captain Ron, I believe, is with what is it, Martin Short and I forget the other individual. They are sailing the Caribbean with this kind of funky captain on a sailboat that they inherited, and it's a comedy. And I watched it when I was probably like 6, 7, 8 years old, and that's why it's just
It stuck
so
with you.
comical to me that it actually came in. But it's a fun travel movie. It's about this family that's having a sail around the Caribbean, interacting, getting lost, having fun voyages, adventures. Very strange.
That's awesome.
That's
Okay,
all I
I'm gonna
know.
have to go
Yeah,
check that out.
yeah. Captain
Mo-
Ron,
I
great
like
movie.
that. I mean, most people are like Eat, Pray, Love or
Yeah,
Road Trip or
no.
something, but Captain Ron, haven't heard of that one. I'm gonna check that out. Sounds
Yeah, let
great.
me know after you
I
do.
like it. Yeah, yeah. No, we'll have a follow-up podcast on Captain
All
Ron.
right, perfect.
So okay, the next one. What is your favorite destination you've traveled to?
All right, so this one I do have a
Yeah, same.
clear answer at least. So, and this one was surprising for me actually in my travels, but my favorite destination to travel to is Japan. I have been a few times, and it is one of those places that as many times as I'll go, I always want to go back. And it's like my wife and I are still planning on, when can we get back there? There's something just so unique and magical about that country that is constantly drawing us back.
That's awesome. Really cool. Okay, so this one, now I'm curious what you'd say on this one because it's a little spin on that is what do you think is the most underrated destination to visit?
Hmm. So that could also be Japan. I feel like Japan is in many cases underrated. I think people sometimes um, underestimate the breadth of what you can experience in Japan. It's not just all about Tokyo and sushi. While
Hmm.
Tokyo is amazing and the sushi is incredible, there is so much more to the country. And as I often get asked this question, frankly, I always try to convince people to give Japan a try. I think people always kind of want to go, but like they need to hear it from someone they know and trust to really kind of take that leap. So I'll go underrated as Japan as well.
I can see that because definitely like Tokyo, you would go there and maybe you'd hop around to different places, but you don't really just explore Japan. So that's a good one. I like that.
Yeah.
And okay, so another one here is what is the best meal you've had while traveling?
The best meal I've had. Wow, we're just going to keep talking about Japan. Let me
I
see
know I
if
was
I
gonna
can
say, I wonder, is
extend.
it sushi?
So, what's unique about my sushi experience in Japan? Last time I went to Japan was with my wife and I, and we had a whole. I mean, the great thing about Japan again, it's not all about sushi. So yes, the sushi is great, but also you've got ramen and you've got katsu and you've got udon and you've got yakitori, all these different amazing things that we had over the course of 5 days. We only had 3 sushi meals, but our sushi meals were what I like to call like tiered sushi meals. So we had one that was in the basement of a big office building that was more of your kind of blue collar conveyor belt sushi. It was roughly like $24 for 2 people to eat a full lunch, which was absolutely fantastic. And then we did like a mid tier that was maybe like a $65, $70 sushi meal that was very, very different, but similarly amazing. And then on our last night, we did one of these, extravagant Michelin rated sushi restaurants that added, different types of fish and new flair and was equally amazing. So it's like, while yes, I think people think of Tokyo in particular in many cases being a very expensive destination, and while it can be, and you can eat at 3 Michelin star restaurants every single night of the week, you can also find these, gems that are much more affordable. And no matter which sushi we were having, they all afforded their own unique experience for us and were wonderful in their own ways.
That's awesome. That is my bucket list is to have sushi in Japan. Because have you
Go
been
for it.
able to find anything comparable in the States?
It is hard. I've had good sushi in the States, certainly, but there's something about being in Japan, just in the moment. And, I've done, and I'm blanking on the name, but when Tsukiji Fish Market was still in Tsukiji, and you go to the small little sushi shop right around the corner, and you have to wait in line at 5 in the morning to have sushi for breakfast that came, right off the boats. There's something just about, not just the quality of the food or the taste, but just the ambiance and overall experience that certainly makes it unlike anything else in the world.
Yeah, that's awesome. That sounds so cool. Okay, so another question here is, what is the last great book or article that you read? It doesn't have to be travel related.
Sure. So one of the last really good books I read actually was uh, I read Where the Crawdads Sing. I know it's a
Oh
movie
yeah.
now. Haven't seen the movie, but I thought the book was fantastic. I actually recently did the drive from New York down to Miami, so we passed a lot of the marshlands of, I forget where it exactly took place, but between South Carolina and Georgia, and was kind of looking out at the the marshes and picturing the story there. I thought that was just a really nice and interesting story that I read recently and enjoyed.
That is a good one. Yeah. I haven't seen
Yeah,
the movie yet either, but I've heard though, I mean, and I think with most, like the book is probably,
I've heard some
uh,
mixed things. I
yeah. So
yeah,
see, but the book is so good though. There is a
the book
plot
is really great.
twist.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
love it.
That's all we'll say. Yeah,
Yes, that's all that's gonna be said. So it's a great travel read too. I feel like it's a good like
yeah,
beach read. It's really good.
very light and easy. Yeah,
Yeah, exactly. Okay, final question here for you is,
yeah.
what is the craziest thing that's ever happened to you while traveling?
The craziest thing that's ever happened to me while traveling. Again, I'm just going to go out and share the first thing that came to mind, whether it's technically a thing that happened to me, but when had just graduated from university, I went on a trip with my brother and a couple of his friends. Actually, we went to Guatemala, and we didn't have any plans, any itinerary. All we did was we found a cheap flight to Guatemala City, and we went out and we went for it. We arrived, we rented a car, we opened up a travel book, and we said, this destination, it was a small beach town a couple hours outside of Guatemala City. This looks great. So we were venturing in our rental car to this beach town. We get to a dead end, there's a river, and we think we're lost. And then we have a boat pull up, and these guys put these big pieces of lumber and ask us to drive our car that we just rented across the river and onto a boat, a very low and not appearingly so sturdy boat. But we boarded our boat while in our car, and we're taking our journey down this little river, which was entirely unexpected. And then it finally lands in this very cool kind of backpacker beach town that I'm blanking on the name again, in Guatemala. And just that whole experience just really stuck with me, this idea that like we had no idea where we were going to be sleeping that night, but just went for the thrill of the adventure, ended up in a place that seemed like it was a challenge or a predicament, but brought our car on a boat and took us to the beach. So that was
That's
a very cool
awesome.
experience.
Did
Yeah.
you have to do the same thing going back? You're like, all right, get the
There
lumber out.
was there was another way
Okay.
that we did not know about at the time. But once we got there, we found out that you can go maybe a 30 to 40-minute detour around the need for the boat. But I like the memory of us sitting on the trunk of this car while on the boat, kind of eating our chips and sodas and stuff, and just enjoying it. It was a good memory with my brother.
That's awesome. That's really cool. See, I love those
Yeah.
questions. It's so
Yeah.
awesome. And thank you so much again for sharing all
Thank you,
that.
Stephanie.
And yeah, and again, good luck at ASTA. If anyone's going, I have to check you,
Yeah.
look you up. Check. Are you
They
gonna
can
have
look
a
me up.
booth there?
I'm not going to have a booth, but if you're going, I would love to connect with you. Obviously you can connect with us through our partner site on runwayhealth.com. You can also email me directly, josh@runwayhealth.com. If you will be attending ASTA, or you just want to get in touch with me directly, would love to chat with anyone in the industry. It's just fun to continue sharing our story and learn about yours, and continue building and growing this business.
Yeah. And I think what's really cool too is hearing about your company is just how the travel industry is growing, technology and just
Mm-hmm.
new things out there. So super cool. Really awesome. And thank you so much again. And thanks for everyone for tuning into this episode of the Lounge of Travify Academy, and to our special guest, Josh, for joining us today. And be sure to subscribe to our podcast or subscribe to our YouTube channel for all of the latest episodes. And we hope you enjoyed our conversation today and join us again. But for now, stay safe, and we'll catch you on the next flight.